Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Meredith, and I am really looking forward to interviewing someone and introducing you to someone who's very passionate about projects that are bringing well-being, bringing positivity, bringing all good things, let's say, to society. And he's traveled the world in search of good things happening, but he's here right now where he's lived, I think, most of his life. That part, I don't know where he was born, but he's been here for a long time. And meet Jamal Wilson. He's the marketing manager of the Underline, but we're going to be finding out about a lot of other projects that he's passionately involved with. So, Jamal, welcome.
Thank
So
you,
happy to have
Meredith.
you,
No,
right?
thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm very honored.
Ah, that's so nice. I think it was well over a year that we had our first conversation.
That's right.
We were with Xavier Cortado, and we were talking, and we had this amazing conversation, and I didn't see you for a long time. And then when you started telling me I'm involved with this and that, so we want to start with the underline because that's where probably most of your involvement is right now.
Yeah,
And I want to tell you, I've driven by the underline for so many years. I live a little bit further away, I'm in Broward County. And so I've driven by, but I never really knew I figured it was people walking, people bicycling, and that was about it. I had no
that's
idea what goes on under the Metro Rail, right? So you're
oh,
going to tell us, I
of
hope,
course.
and give us the idea of how important this is for our community.
Yeah, so the Underline is an extraordinary project. It's probably one of the fastest growing projects of its kind in the country. It's a
Mm,
10-mile linear park. Uh, it's also a 10-mile reimagination or reimagining of public space. So
mm,
we have this underutilized trail under the Metro Rail that a few people had been using to bike to and from work if they happen to live and work along the US 1 corridor. And, our founder, Meg Daly, she, due to circumstances beyond her control, given an injury that she had, she was really forced to rely on public transportation and other modes of getting around rather than driving herself. She broke both her arms in a bicycle accident and
mm,
was standing on the one of the pathways and kind of reflecting on her time in New York, knowing about the High Line in New York. She has this crazy idea, why can't we reuse this space and reimagine it
mm,
and, turn it into something first class, beautiful for the benefit of
mm.
all of Miami and the visitors that come to the city.
Wow,
And
beautiful.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
10 years
sorry.
later,
10 years later,
10
this.
it's eight years I believe after the as anyone can imagine of taking on a 120-acre 10-mile project,
Mhm,
crossing through multiple cities, multiple neighborhoods, having to deal with the federal, state, county, and city governments to get the funding and the endless list of approvals and permits that you have to get to build something like this. 8 years later, here we are with 5 miles of the 10-mile park open.
mm.
And,
I'm sure
yeah.
that many people at the time just said, this isn't going to happen. How's this going to
Oh,
happen?
yeah.
And
Oh,
this is
yeah.
going to be too expensive, or what is you're going to, put into it. And
Absolutely.
so I'm sure there were a lot of those people. And so there were enough people like this woman who had this horrible accident. And she went on to do something great, for our community and for the world, didn't she?
Really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those stories of what can happen when, you know, it's a story of what can happen when you have not just an amazing idea, but the
Mhm.
tenacity and the belief and the support and the partnerships to make it happen. And the partnerships, what's really interesting from my perspective, being one of the team members, is seeing that it's not just support from the county government or city government or federal or state. It's not just support from donors, private
Mhm.
and corporate. It's not just, nonprofit support from other stakeholders in the city. It's actually everyone needed to be on board. Every city commissioner,
Mm.
every county commissioner, every state senator, every city mayor, county mayor,
Yeah.
everybody had to weigh in to this project and believe in it to the point, to make those hard decisions. Um, and the easy decision was to say yes, right? So, but the hard decisions were, where's funding going to come from for the building? For the building, how are we going to get public support? How are we going to invite public, the public from different cities, from different neighborhoods, to
Mhm.
come out and give us their opinions of what they think, how this is going to benefit their community. So it was a very long process. I came in 4 years ago, and that was a long process. So I can only imagine what Meg and the early team had to go through to get to this point. But here we are, and you touched on earlier, where I'm from. I'm from Miami, born and raised in Miami.
Uh-huh.
And so being able to see this project come into fruition is amazing, especially because I went to Coral Gables High, I went to University of Miami,
Mm.
which is right around where the Underline is. And so being able to see this space that I know from childhood, the space that everyone pretty much avoided because
Wow.
it was just, you know, it
Right.
just it
It was
wasn't a
under the
usable
metro.
space.
That's all it was.
It was just
But
laying
let
under
me
the
ask you
metro. Yeah.
something. I mean, it's not just like people bike riding or walking, and I
Right.
happen to love both, but
Right.
it's a lot more than that. I mean, I
It
was
is
looking at
a
the
lot
pictures,
more.
and we're going to bring up some pictures, in a bit.
Yeah.
Um, it's like everything from yoga to dance to concerts to it's just like there's is anything missing, in your
Yeah.
schedule? Or how does that
It's
happen?
it's extraordinary. I mean, it really comes from presenting a space to different personalities, different stakeholders, different sponsors, and saying, how can you reimagine this space? How would you like
Mm.
to use this space? And if you're talking to a parent, they'll tell you, wow, thank you for creating this space where I can bring my kids. I live in an apartment or I live in a condo. I don't have a lawn. I don't have a backyard. Thank you for providing this space. I can just bring my kids, but you can meet other kids. You can meet other parents. You have this element of meeting space. And, as you can imagine, meeting spaces are where communities are built,
Mm.
where different community members have a space to come together,
Right.
that's safe, surrounded by native plants and trees, to have that inspiration, and you become literally rooted
Mm.
in your neighborhood when you're surrounded by green and when you're surrounded by, just your neighbors, when you're engaged in all these different activities that you were talking about. You can do free yoga. We have free dance classes. We have workshops that are sponsored by nonprofits in the city. We have bike tours. We have these activities called Family Day once a month, where families are invited to come and learn through educational workshops, play with building blocks that the kids love, music element. We have farmers market twice a month. We have all kinds of, we have music concert series coming up. So we have a free music concert series from May until October. We have an interbike program.
Mm.
Thanks to our, one of our largest corporate sponsor, Inter, they have a bike share program, or bike rental program rather. So it's just an amazing, we have strength, like we have a series sponsored by Baptist Health, they're our health and wellness sponsor, and we have 4 classes that happen every month, or every week rather, sorry. And it's just an amazing, Pilates. Uh, we
You don't have
have
to go on a vacation. I think you could
yeah,
just,
just come to the Underline.
show up. So is that what you do? I mean, you just show up, or you have to sign up, or, I
Well,
mean, I
we
was
we
looking at the
definitely, yeah,
visuals and I wasn't really sure if people just sort of stop by or how it
everyone
works.
is welcome. We have people who stop by. We have people who because we're a relatively new project, they don't necessarily know the exact dates and the exact
Yeah.
activities we have. So we will have people just happen to be walking by and hop in for a Pilates class or hop in for a yoga class for sure.
And I'm sure many of these people have become regulars after this, right? It's
Yes.
something, I mean, like I said, I live a little bit farther north,
Yes.
but I'm definitely going to go
Yeah,
after we started
please. I'll
talking.
give you a
Oh,
personal
please
tour.
do. Oh, I'd love it. I loved it. I have the beach near me. I don't live on the beach, of course, but it'd be nice. But and for me, it's like, okay, and there's a park near me. And so that's, kind of my happy places in, the area that I live in. But this, and it's like a few people here and a few people there that come, tourists come. But I'm just wondering, I
It's
mean, this is
yeah,
like, is this bringing more people together? They hear about this and they go,
absolutely.
let's go,
Um,
I want to try it.
absolutely. We've had such amazing feedback. Not just in the real world, but in the digital world. We'll have, messages will come into our channels telling
Yeah.
us, thank you for creating this space. Thank you for really connecting all of us to each other. Because, traditionally you might know your neighbor next door. You
Mm-hmm.
might know someone lives 2 doors down and you might see them every so often. But this gives you an opportunity to meet neighbors that you didn't even know you had,
Mm-hmm.
because you're coming to this playground or you're coming to this yoga class or you're running and you're biking and start seeing the same faces, and then you see the same face in the grocery store nearby, or you see the same face in your elevator, and there's that extra layer of connectivity that kind of encourages people to get to know one another. We've had surveys go out um, where people have said, yeah, I'm meeting people for the first time on the Underline. No, thanks to
Mm-hmm.
the Underline. And it's really about this public space
Mm-hmm.
becoming part of people's everyday life. People are, we have high school kids that are using the space every day now, because there's a school nearby. So they walk home and they'll kind of gather at the end of the school day
Yeah.
um, in the park. And so you have these kids who are getting to know each other, who are relating to each other in a safe setting, building their friendships. You have parents who are meeting other parents in the playground. You have tourists. Tourists are experiencing Miami in a whole new way. Anybody
I
who's
think
been,
it's being scheduled. I
yeah,
mean, people are seeing this from what I was reading of, all over when they come to Miami. That's
yeah,
like, you know, go to see this,
yeah,
go experience the Underline. So it's not, yeah,
yeah.
it's an experience, isn't it? It's not
It
just
really
going
is.
for a walk in a park, which again, like I said, I do love parks.
Yeah,
This is beyond, above and beyond anything.
it
And
really
I have
is.
been to the, to the Underline in New York, or the Overline, the
The
Overline.
High Line. Yeah,
Eyeline, sorry. It's been a while that I've been there since I've been there. And there, beautiful things about it. And I definitely don't want to be accused of knocking New York, but I think, New York's, because it's great to walk there.
yeah. I mean, so
But this is beyond, isn't it? This is
yeah,
like maybe because it's a bigger space
it is
or,
a much bigger space.
yeah,
We'll always be grateful to the High Line because they were the inspiration for the Underline. The same
sure.
designers, yeah, the same designers, the landscape architects for the High Line,
Yeah.
yeah, the same architects for the High Line are the same architects for the Underline Phase 1 and 3,
Mm.
which is great. We have Field Operations is the landscape architect firm,
Mm.
and their involvement. just took the project to a whole other level.
Mm.
Their attention to detail, their just professionalism, their understanding of how to engage a community with the idea of transforming a public space and meeting their needs, and then transforming that into an actual like material vision. Was just watching that process was amazing. But to your point, the High Line is considerably smaller. But they had the advantage of being in one of the most visited cities in the world.
Yeah.
Miami is definitely on that list, but they have 10 years of experience. Um, and being in a city like New York, we're learning from them for sure, but they're also learning from us. So
Mm.
it's a nice relationship that we have.
I'm wondering if others are learning from what you've done. Could we go
Absolutely.
to other parts of the country? Could we go to other parts even of the world? And they go, I heard about
Absolutely.
this. Why don't we have this in our community? Things spread,
Absolutely.
don't they?
So
Good things, good things.
yeah, one of the amazing things about this project is it's like the kind of like this contagious, someone comes here and they say, of course, we should reimagine a space that's not being used and turn it into a public space. Hialeah actually sent kind of like a committee to the Underline so that they could replicate elements about the Underline in Hialeah. A
Well,
little
that's
Havana.
great. That's great.
Yeah. And we had the Highline Network visit Miami a few years ago, which is it's a network of 40 to 50 sites around the country that are
Mm.
also creating public space projects
Mhm.
that are kind of reimagining transit and public's relationship to space. And we had a meeting of the minds, and just hearing all the stories and hearing how just ideas that we can take on and how we were giving other projects ideas. That was, and they're going to be back next year, either this year or next year, I believe. So
So
yeah,
this is
that's really
bigger than,
exciting.
this is bigger than, I don't know, like something happens and then it spreads good
Yeah,
things. And I think
yeah,
that this is the time to have you talk about the work that you've been involved with over the years, other work,
sure.
starting with the master's degree that you got at University of Miami, which is beyond impressive.
Oh, thank you.
You
Yeah,
maybe
so
explain what it is and what you did and how that inspired your involvement with this,
of course.
if it did.
I
Yeah.
was, yeah, I was fortunate enough to, while I was working for the business school at University of Miami, found out about a new program called the Masters of Professional Science in Environment, Culture, and Media,
Mhm.
which was a um, multidisciplinary relationship between the School of Communications and Erasmus at the University of Miami, which is the school of like marine science. And the degree was really the study of bridging the world of communication, the
Mhm.
world of climate
Mhm.
science, and then the world of culture. How does culture shape how you perceive climate communications? How does culture dictate how you use digital media to consume
Mhm.
different news, different entertainment, content? And how does
Mhm.
that shape how you see the world? And ultimately, how does that
Mm.
shape how you respond to climate emergencies that we're seeing an increase in? So it was a very timely program, which unfortunately is
Mm.
no longer a program. But
Mhm.
I was fortunate enough to get to be the second to the last graduating class for this program.
Mhm.
And being able to join the Underline team and having a role in shaping how the public sees public space.
Mm.
And that is actually, in this time of climate crisis, a relationship with the outdoors is
Mm.
going to shape how we collectively respond to what's happening. Just being outdoors, exercising outdoors, connecting to your neighbors outdoors,
Mhm.
long term is going to shape people's reaction to a perceived threat that they see to their outdoor spaces.
And
and being
people
in,
are afraid, right? Aren't they? I mean,
yeah,
no, I'm not talking about the underline. I'm talking about, we can talk about that,
yeah,
but people are afraid of what they don't know these days, you know,
exactly, exactly. And
and that
it's
stops
yeah,
them from doing things
a-
because, yeah.
absolutely. And if they see or appreciate the role that public spaces and the outdoors has in their
Mhm.
daily lives, which is really interesting because Miami is considered this urban center, especially where the underline passes through. It starts in Brickell, which is basically downtown Miami. And so you have this green corridor in the middle of this urban center with huge native plants and trees, birds that we haven't seen in the area for a while. Butterflies are coming back because we planted plant species that they rely on for food.
Mhm.
And so you have this green awakening happening in the city that, in my humble opinion, is waking people up to their relationship with the natural world, even on a
Yeah.
small scale.
And I really believe, as a
Yeah,
person that's always really, I mean, started out loving nature before I got into the media. Not, no, it didn't stop me
yeah,
from loving it, but, just, I think we
yeah,
talked about my background in,
yeah,
working in
yeah,
forestry and more with nature out west, northwest, I just know the feeling of just really well-being when you're
yeah,
surrounded by trees and not just walking by trees and plants and everything, but experiencing it. It's like a whole different
exactly.
thing. Um, so people are, I mean, my feeling is that it's actually changing people's lives, as a result. And I mean, the people that are maybe not just coming once, but frequenting, the
Absolutely.
do you find that's happening and there are people that they're there all the time for their yoga, they're there all the time for their concerts, it's like
Absolutely.
this is their happy place, right?
Absolutely. I was very fortunate enough to capture this little boy's first steps.
Yeah.
He started walking. His father mentioned he had been walking for about a week,
Hmm.
and I was able to be there with my phone,
Hmm.
recording social media moments, and was able to capture this little boy taking his first steps. And I just recently saw him in the park, and he's 2 or 3 now, and
Good
just
boy.
just yeah, the boy, and just seeing how this public space is
Hmm.
improving relationships between like members of families.
Hmm.
You're spending, that time with your family is so precious. And when you have a space to do that where you're not frustrated by something that's reminding you to clean up in your house, or something, in your house that needs to be fixed, or when you can get outside
Like, yeah.
and this beautiful
Yeah.
Miami weather that we have, when
Mhm.
it's not 95 degrees, um and even when it is 95 degrees, just the idea that you can go outside is amazing.
Is it open all the time? I mean, like, how does that
It
work? It's such a
is.
big amount. I mean, are there gates where you can come
It
in and out?
is.
Oh, there
It
are.
is. It
Okay.
is open 24/7. That's actually how we're different from the High Line in New York, which
Mhm.
closes, I believe, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. It closes because there's a gate to access it. Here in Miami, the Underline is completely open 24/7. We have security. We have lights. We have
Mhm.
cameras. There are certain amenity areas, like the urban gym,
Mhm.
for example, is surrounded by a gate, so that does close at night.
Mhm.
But for the most part, um, in general, most of the Underline is open 24/7.
Wow. So
Yeah,
people, from what I'm getting from you and, understanding this more, they're not really afraid to go there. You know how there's certain places, really, it could be,
yeah,
um, I don't want to say where it was. It was like on Miami Beach, and I was walking late at night. Actually, come from something with the Peace Studio that actually Xavier Cortado and yeah had been there for that, and it just like changed at night. It just seemed like, kind of dark and a little scary. I don't scare easily, but there wasn't anybody watching. That's what I'm saying, is if you have security, it does make a difference. You don't
Yes.
feel like you're all alone. And yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's one of the things that comes with operating a space like this is starting to understand how people are going to use the space, which is for the most part good, but then
Hmm.
it's also learning the risks and then how to address those risks, how to meet those risks. So we've hired a head of security, that's joined the team recently, and he's really kind of revamped, taking it to another level of how we prepare for those things that you just don't know are waiting for you. So there's just definite like things that we've learned from over the last few years. But because of the lights, because of the new heightened
Sure.
security, because of the relationship we have with Miami PD, the training that our security guards get from Miami PD,
Hmm.
the rules and regulations that we've established, to meet the public, all members of the public, people who use the park, the people who are just passing through the park, the people who are, houseless, who spend a lot of time in the park. Everyone is welcome in the park, and our rules and regulations are meant to keep everybody safe.
And follow the rules, and you'll be okay.
Yeah,
And just
yeah,
right. I feel like, this is really life changing, something like this. And again,
it
like
is.
I'm like embarrassed that I've never been there, really. I
Well, you're
mean, I
you're in
knew it
Broward.
was,
You're in Broward, so
yeah, it's
you're
hard to,
forgiven.
yeah, I can make it down there, though. I actually do go down there a lot for meditation classes near there or actually near, we should schedule some kind of a walk
Yeah,
with our center.
we actually have a
I
meditation garden.
really do want to mention some of the other amazing things that you're involved with. This is one
Uh,
project, this is your full-time work, but
yes,
bring me back to some of the other things like your world travels, traveling around the world in
yeah,
search of good things, right? Happening in the
yeah.
world. You've done a lot, and there's quite a few things that so you've always been on this path, haven't you, to looking for the good, for what's positive, what's life changing, in the
I
world.
I I thank you for seeing that. Thinking back, I have tended to lean towards roles and jobs that, on some level, involved making the world a better place, even if not for making me a better person.
Mhm.
Early on was, growing up, you had your high school jobs. It was service based, always customer service. And
Yeah.
then, when you get to the age where you can decide of what you want to actually pursue, then it goes into web design. So I was getting my bachelor's at UM for computer information systems, and the internet, the early days of the internet, that was a really interesting time to be a, 19, 20-year old. And so, learning web design and then understanding that websites and the internet represented an opportunity to have your voice be heard, your creative voice be heard. To design a website for a small business gave that small business an opportunity to be on this global stage, this global digital stage that they wouldn't otherwise have. Transitioning from that to working for nonprofits, working for Miami-Dade Government Information Center on their IT team, working for the Ethics Commission, working for um, going to moving to New Orleans. That was really I guess the turning point in terms of how I could use my skill to actually be a part of a team that's doing real change. And so was able to join the team that um, they were building a website for a disaster response leadership academy based out of Tulane. So I was able to design an interface for that website. Joined a nonprofit also in New Orleans that were basically represented all of the nonprofits in Louisiana that respond to disasters. So I built their website. I built their email journey rather,
Mhm.
and it was a really interesting time. Being in New Orleans during the oil spill, being in New Orleans right after the tornado outbreak in
Mm,
2010, going to
mm,
Alabama to respond to that disaster a
mm,
month after
mm,
it had hit, just really kind of opened my eyes to the role that individuals play. Not the individuals who it's their business to respond to disasters. It's meeting the people on the ground who are impacted by these disasters and then transform their experiences into becoming volunteers, going from a quote unquote housewife to managing the distribution center in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Meeting people like
mm,
that, meeting fishermen's wives who are directly impacted by the oil spill, seeing them take the podium and explaining to the community what this really means in terms that the community can understand. You know,
mm,
seeing people rise to the occasion was my example of wow, you really can go beyond what you were trained to do, what you were taught to do academically or professionally, and you can really seek a whole new path. And that's what I did. So I sold everything. I quit my job. I gave up my apartment, sold my car, visited some family, and set out on what I did not know at the time that would be a 3 year, 11
mm.
country journey through the Americas with no plane
Uh-huh.
and no phone. So I was
Uh-huh.
only using Wi-Fi. I didn't have a phone.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the idea was putting myself out there, opening myself up to the world in service.
Mhm.
What kind of journey would that be? And that's what I set out on. And I didn't know anywhere I was going. Literally had no idea, didn't have a plan. And for 3 years, just kind of followed the signs, which led me from Miami to New York for a month, where I volunteered at a documentary film theater, who I did not know at the time was the director of the of Grey Gardens, which is the story about the Bouvier sisters.
Mm, mm.
So he had, I didn't, but I had no idea that I was in this art house
Look at
of
that.
of a legend. Then I went from New York, where I got on a bus to Reno, Nevada, where there was a festival happening outside of Reno. Volunteered for that festival and went on a volunteering mission from there to Portland, Oregon. I lived there for 4 months volunteering, learning about natural building, community building. And then from there, took a mountain bike to the border of California. Um, and then California did some more volunteering at a permaculture school,
Mhm,
Sun Dog Builders,
mhm.
and learned how to use clay, sand, and straw to build walls. Um, and then went to Mexico, and Mexico was a whole other experience of community building, meeting travelers, building community with travelers, literally living in a community that we built in the jungle for 4 months in Costa Rica, learning how to manage a hostel in Panama and Guatemala, learning how to manage um, a language school in Panama, working at a vegan restaurant in Peru, working at a volunteering at a school, elementary school in Ecuador, more volunteering at a cacao
Wow.
bamboo farm in Ecuador. It's an extraordinary experience that really showed me many things. One, we are essentially more human when we are helping other humans, when we're interdependent, when we're part of a community. That's when our real humanness comes out. Um,
That's so powerful and so empowering. And I think
yeah.
you just being such an example, to the world, not just to Miami. And I know, you speak, I don't know a lot, I don't know how much, but you have something very powerful to say at this time, which needs optimistic and needs this idea that we're here to serve. I mean, if we are here to serve, we're going to be much better off because we're going to feel good every day, as I can see in you. You know, your
Ah.
feeling of fulfillment. And we could talk all day and all night. And I remember the first conversation I had with you. That's what happened.
Yeah,
But
you inspired me too.
gathering. Well, thank you. I've been lucky to be with among a lot of really people like you dedicated to seeing themselves as world servers and doing things not for money, not for themselves, but for the greater good in the world. And I think that's how the world's going to change. And you're definitely a change maker. Absolutely.
Well,
So I have to say
thank you,
goodbye. We
Meredith.
keep going with you. You have to come back.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
Really a pleasure to get to meet you and see you
Yeah.
again, I should say.
Likewise. No, thank you for, creating this space and for, giving different people that you meet a chance to share their stories. I mean, I truly believe that stories we learn from them, but they're also meant to be shared so others can learn from them. So
Stories
thank you.
change lives,
Yeah,
don't they? They really do. So you
they
just
really
keep up
do.
the good work, keep letting us know what you're doing, and
Absolutely.
stay in touch, definitely.
All right.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank Mary Ann Weiss, who's our technical director, on the program on Conversations with Friends, the Brahma Kumaris on the Brahma Kumaris meditation site and on YouTube, Brahma Kumaris YouTube, and all the people that I've been lucky enough over many years to meet and to have in my life who've taught me similar things. I wish I could say I've done what you've done, but that we're here to give. That to me is the message I get from you and from people that are fulfilled and people that are happy. So thank you, thank you,
Yeah, thank you, Meredith.
thank you. Bye bye. As we say, Om
Bye.
Shanti, and that means I'm peace. I am peace. Yeah,
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.